Hey guys, today we're going to talk about exposure compensation. What is it? Why do we need it? And why do we have it? Let's find out.
Click, 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 click and a pick it. Click, 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 click and a pick it. Click, 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 click and a pick it. Click, click, click.
So welcome back, guys. My name is Vern Danke, the Click and Picket guy, and welcome to our intermediate camera class lessons. So today we're discussing exposure control and exposure compensation. And so basically inside each camera there is a metering device. The camera will look at a specific spot and it will decide if it needs to overexpose or underexpose the photo. And so you take your shot and it either looks correct to your eyes or it could be too light or too dark. And that's where the exposure compensation comes in play. You get to decide if you want to override the settings. Now, exposure compensation only works in the programmed modes. It will not work in manual mode. So any mode that is a semi-automatic mode, you have the adjustment to use the exposure control. Okay? Alright, so let's get started. Let's look at our camera here. Let's look at the settings that we've chosen. Okay, so we're running an AV, aperture priority. Our shutter speed is 1/30th of a second. Our f-stop is f4.5 and we have an ISO of 800. Now, this area here with this -3, 2, 1 with a 0 and then a 1, 2, 3 positive, what that is that's our leveling meter for the exposure compensation. So 0 is the baseline for where nothing's changed. And if we go to the negative zone, we're taking away exposure. So we're basically subtracting light. And if we go to the positive zone, we're adding light to the photo. We're giving it more exposure, more time for the light to get in. Okay, so let's play with that a little bit. Okay, so right now we're at 0. You can see the meter is 0. Let's see, I guess it's on the wheel on this one. Okay, so now we're kind of moving it around. Now, from 0 to 1 full stop, there are increments of 1/3 segments in between for adjustment. So we can adjust it in 1/3, okay? All the way up to 3 full stops negative, less light, or all the way up to 3 full stops positive, more light. Okay? Now what exposure compensation does is it takes over the shutter speed. So if you look at our shutter speed right now, we're at 1/30th. Now I'm going to go negative 1 whole stop. Now it doubles the shutter speed. Okay? So it's making it faster. It's letting in half as much light. Okay, and now we're gonna go positive 1 full stop. And what does it do there? It halves it. It's basically slowing down the shutter speed to let in more light. Okay, so negative is letting in less light, positive is letting in more light. Okay, so if we go into the negative zone, it's basically called underexposing. And if we go into the positive zone, it's called overexposing, okay? So let's take a shot of this mask just at the normal range that the camera is picking. We're not going to choose any exposure setting yet. So let's take the shot. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, it looks okay. So let's underexpose it. Let's see what that looks like. If we go 1 full stop, underexposing, how much darker is it? So our speed now is 1/60th. Before, let's see, before it was 1/30th. Now it's 1/60th. So it's doubling the shutter speed, letting in less light because it's faster. It's going right. It's slowing. Let's see. It's slowing it down. It's taking a faster shutter speed. So let's see what it does. Alright, it's starting to get darker. Let's go 1 more stop down. Let's go to -2. Now it's at 1/125th of a second. So it's really shooting it fast. Okay, so you see how much darker that is, right? It's almost black, and it's hard to overcompensate when you're that dark in your post, in your Photoshop style type editing. So it's better to have a little bit brighter sometimes than it is completely dark, because it's hard to pull things back up that far. It's not impossible, but sometimes it's really hard. All right, so let's go back. Let's try overexposing this a bit, and let's see what happens there. Okay. So we'll start at 0 again, just so you get a base. You see what that's like at 0. Now we will go +1, overexposure. And so let's see, what did it start out at again? It started at 1/30th of a second. Now we go one stop, it's 1/15th of a second, so it's really slowing it down. It's half of what it was. Okay, so here we go. You can just hear the shutter speed slow down, and it's a lot brighter. So let's go one more stop. So we're at 1/15th of a second. Now it's at 1/8th of a second. Or is it 1/80th of a second? 1/8th of a second. Okay, here we go. You can just hear the shutter speed slow down. Chunk, chunk, chunk. Okay, so now it's really bright, right? It's so bright, everything's kind of blown out. Now, what this is it's a quick way to override the settings to get a little bit better desirable results. So exposure control can basically be your very best friend. It can override the light metering just enough that you can get everything exposed just how you need it. Sometimes the meter will look at a wall and it'll choose the wall as the bright spot, and then things will look too bright. You look like, what's going on? It's in aperture priority. It should be picking the best thing, right? Well, the fault is in the choice of what the light metering picks. So you just override that and you're ready to rock and roll. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is when I shoot model photography, the skin tones are the hardest things to get right. Now, when I was shooting model photography, what I would do is I would overexpose just a little bit, even up to a full one stop of light. And what I've discovered is if the skin is a little lighter, it's easier to darken the image in the post in the Photoshop than it is to try to bring back a nice light airy skin tone. Now, where I'm living now, it's in the Philippines, and the people here prefer a lighter skin tone versus a darker tone in their imagery. You see it in the movies, you see it in the ads. So if you overexpose it, it'll automatically give you a chance to have a little bit lighter tone. But just try to lighten it up in post if it's too dark. Good luck. It looks really bad. And I'll show you one of my first photo shoots where I really didn't have a clue what I was doing, and the skin tone looked so dark that it was really disappointing. So the other advantage is if you're into shooting a lot of things with shadows, you really want the shadows to pop in your imagery. And a lot of street photographers will do that. They'll go out, they'll find an area that has a lot of shadows, and they'll find maybe people going by that are wearing bright colors or things that have bright colors. And when you underexpose your image, it will darken the shadows and it will give you the ability to still retain a lot of those really bright colors, and it just makes for a real impact on your image. All right, so hopefully those things have helped you. That's been probably one of the easiest, fastest ways to enhance your photos using that exposure compensation, and it's done wonders for my photography. So check it out. And remember, you can't use it in manual mode. It's only in the other modes. All right? So good luck. And if I've helped you, please throw me a like. And if you haven't, by all means, subscribe already, will you? And let's grow together. Thanks.